Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, August 25th, 2016 regular session of the Xenia City Council. At this time, we will begin our regular session with an invocation by Dr. Andy Spencer, Senior Minister, First Church of Christ, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Mills. If you would rise with me, please, for the invocation and pledge.
Dear Father, we thank you so much for the freedoms that you give us and the cost, the price that's been paid so we can have those freedoms. I thank you for the Xenia Council and all those involved with the meeting tonight. You'll give us guidance and wisdom and harmony as we do what we can to make this the best place possible. God, I thank you so much for our schools and that they're back in session. Whether it be the public schools, private schools, home schools, I pray for all the teachers and those that are involved with doing what they can to invest in our students so they can be the best that they can be. I pray for safety among the schools. I pray that this will be a great school year. I pray also a thanks for the plan that's out for a new junior, senior high in this area, and I pray your blessings as that moves forward. I also lift to you, God, our police workers, our fire workers, our servicemen and women who put their lives on the line so we can have freedoms not only here locally but throughout the world. I pray that you'll continue to bless them and their families as they put their lives on the line and serve. God, I thank you for our churches and other organizations that do what they can to help. I pray that they'll step up more as we're all facing many different crises in this area. There's a heroin epidemic, Father, as you know, and many people are dying from other types of drugs, etc. Help us not to look the other way, but to do all that we can to help. And God, I just pray that Xenia will truly become a place of hospitality like you want it to be. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer and Councilwoman Mills. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Smith.
Here.
Councilman Wallace.
Here.
Councilman Louderback.
Here.
Councilwoman Mays.
Here.
Councilwoman Mills.
Here.
Mayor Bayless. President Engel.
Here.
Mr. President, this time I would like to move to motion to excuse the mayor, Marcia Bayless. She's at the Beaver Creek Xenia football game representing our town.
Thank you very much. Having motion to excuse Mayor Bayless from this evening's meeting. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Councilman
Can I
Wallace.
make a comment? She knew this was going to be a very important meeting, and for that reason, I cannot excuse her. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
No.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time, I'd like a motion for approval of minutes, please. First, the August 11th, 2016 special session.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mays, seconded by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on this set of minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Abstain.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And now, motion, please, for the August 11th, 2016 regular session.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on this set of minutes, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Abstain.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we have opportunity for a special presentation by Ms. Christy Fielding, Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations for the Xenia Community Schools. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I am extremely excited to be here tonight to speak to you. We have started our school year and it's going amazingly well. Things are going very smoothly. Tonight is a very exciting night. Not only do I get to speak to you about a great opportunity that we're facing, but it is our first first football game of the season. It is against Beaver Creek and starts right now. So good luck to the guys tonight. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about our middle school and high school project. In July, our board did pass the first of two required votes to be on the ballot in November. Also in July, the Ohio Schools Facilities Commission approved funding for this project in the amount of a little over $28 million. Then also in August, our board did the second of the 2 required votes to go on the ballot. So we will be on the ballot in November, on November 8th. They also, at that point in time, voted for contracts so that we could pick the location of our new middle school, high school building with voter approval in November. So on November 8th, we will be on the ballot for a 3.9 mil levy. It's a 37-year issue. The cost to taxpayers would be less than $12 a month per $100,000 home. I like to say that, for instance, I have a kindergartner in our district. He just started this week, and I can't picture a better way to spend, my $12 a month than to spend it on ensuring that he and all of his little buddies and all of your children and grandchildren and friends and family have the best of the best from the minute they walk into school as a kindergartner to the day they graduate. And that's what this project will ensure. So a question of why do we need a new middle school and high school building? So the state came in and did an assessment of those buildings and have determined that the cost of repairs and renovations will total more than 2/3 the cost to build brand new buildings. And as you can see from your handout tonight on the front page, actually the cost to build a new building are almost identical to the cost of repairing and renovating the existing 2 buildings. A lot of the big issues are a lack of fire suppression system at both the middle school and the high school building. We have inadequate wiring and electrical systems. We are having to update the systems on a regular basis based on current needs to the building. We are at the point where when we have to make repairs, finding parts are almost impossible, if not impossible, and we are at the point where we're going to have to start making some major renovations to the electrical systems. Same goes for mechanicals. If you are at the middle school, for instance, if you've been in that building, if you have kids in that building, you will know it's warm. We do have window air conditioning units in all the classrooms, so they do have some air. But if you're sitting in that cafeteria at lunch, you have about 3 windows open, and you have 300 kids sitting there who maybe just come in from recess, but it's really hot. And so that's in portions of the building. The building is not ADA accessible, so there's two wings of the building that have second floors. And so as we create schedules for students, we have to ensure that all students have the exact same access to programs. And so that makes it very difficult sometimes with no elevators. At the high school, we have areas of the high school that are not accessible by an elevator as well. And in fact, if you've been at our high school, you'll see the blue trailer at the back, and we have moved our training room and our athletic office to that trailer for that very reason, because we were having seniors trying to get up those stairs. We are having adults trying to get up those stairs, and kids who were injured trying to get upstairs, and they just couldn't do it. So we had to move those facilities. The spaces, if you've been in the classrooms, are often, they're too small. And according to state standards, the state also says they're too small. And so you can go into classrooms and they're also poorly configured. For instance, at the high school, when that building was designed, computer labs wasn't really something that you had back then. Well, now we have computer labs. And we have classrooms that have 30 computers in them, and they weren't designed, the air for that room wasn't designed for 30. The electric wasn't designed for that. So the spaces are poorly configured. We have some science classrooms maybe that at one point were labs, and now we need the space for other classrooms, and so they're not what we currently need. And I can go on and on with the list of issues of those buildings. For instance, our opening day with all of our teachers, we had a presentation on our auditorium, and one of the comments I made is the seats that they were sitting in, they can't be replaced anymore. There are no more of those seats so that I can repair them. I have to start doing major renovations and spend a couple $100,000 to change out the seats in the auditorium because we can't find parts for those seats anymore. So those are just some examples. you may ask, why do we need to do this now? What makes this so important to do now? Well, beyond the issues of the building, we also have the opportunity to obtain this money from the state, and that's $28 million to go towards this project, which is roughly 49% of the project. And so if if we don't pass this in November, we only have 13 months to pass it from the time it got approved in July. But if we don't pass it in November, we may not have a shot again. What will happen in 13 months if we can't get voter approval? The money will go back to the state, and we'll have to start making renovations, major renovations to these buildings, and we get put back on a list. And so we may not get this shot again. So we need to try really hard to get this passed in November. The site location. We are going to be located on the northwest corner of 35 and 42. If you have your packet, it's on the back side. You can see this drawing, but it's also up here. Here's 42. So there's this in town of Xenia going south towards Lebanon. And then 35 is coming from town and going out towards like Jamestown. This is Ledbetter. So if you're sitting in the DMV parking lot, for those of you who are still trying to kind of figure out where you're at, you're sitting in the parking lot, you go to Ledbetter, you turn left to get onto 42, and you're at that light. If you look at that large field across from the light, that's the new home of the middle school and high school building. It's 106 acres, and I love to drive by it because as you're driving by, you can start to imagine what this facility is going to look like on this property. If you're coming from Jamestown, you're going to see almost staring right at you coming this direction, you're going to see the 9th and 12th, the high school building. And it's going to be sitting right there for you to see. If you're coming from the other direction, running parallel to 35, you're going to see the middle school building. So you're not going to miss this wonderful improvement to our community. With this space, there's obviously a lot of benefits to it. First, economics. When you're building, one facility or two facilities but on the same site, but they're connected and they're sharing services such as your library, your gymnasiums, your student dining, so you can build a nicer kitchen for all of our students versus having to try to build two kitchens. We'll have a really nice auditorium. Right now you have an auditorium at the high school but not at the middle school, and so this allows now to service 6 through 12 with a auditorium. So there's a lot of benefits to having this combined building concept, as well as if you have a student, let's say, that's excelled in math class and they need to take an Excel class, they can just walk down the hall and take the class that they need versus trying to find transportation to another site. Or maybe a high school teacher has an extra period of Spanish that they could teach, but they can't you have also the time to transport to another building. So they could just walk down the hall and teach maybe a middle school Spanish class. So there's a lot of benefits to this, this multi-building campus. We'll have all of our athletic fields here as well. We will keep our football stadium where it is, and that won't change. And this time next year, I hope to be able to tell you that you're going to be seeing an 8-lane competition track around that football field, soccer field. And so we're really excited about that. So you'll have everything you need on one site. So we're extremely excited about that. One of the last questions that I hear is what happens to the old buildings. So what I can tell you is that our funds, our project budget does include the cost to demolish both the middle school and high school. However, we have time to decide that. If this passes in November, we start a design phase in 2017. In 2018, we'd start construction and be finished by 2020. So that gives us plenty of time to potentially find a user for those sites so that maybe we don't have to demolish the buildings. However, the funding is put in place in case we do need to. That pretty much covers the facts. I do have, like I said, the fact sheet here, the drawing, and a little bit more detail of frequently asked questions that we're hearing. We'll continue to put stuff on our website as well. And I'm free to ask some questions.
How old is the high school?
So the high school was built in 1976, and the middle school was built in 1962.
1976, you're going to possibly demolish the building.
That is possible.
You know, I'm not a tax and spender, and I haven't made a decision on this, but you act like $12 a month, $144 a year is minimal. It's not for the people with $100,000 houses working 2 and 3 jobs, struggling to make ends meet. And I get very disappointed when you guys said this was phase 2. Is that not your announcement?
It is segment 2 of the project. That's technically what the state
What was
calls it.
segment 1?
Segment 1 was the 5 elementary buildings.
And did the public know there was going to be a segment 2?
I was not in the district at that point in time, but I do believe that conversations during that time period did state that there was segment 1, and when we took the high school and middle school off the project, there was segment 2.
No, there was no discussion on segment 2.
Okay.
And I will apologize to the public if you can produce me some documents.
Okay.
When the people went to the polls to vote on segment 1, if they went to the polls to vote on segment 1 knowing that a segment 2 was coming up, you think that segment 1 would have passed?
I don't know, sir. I hope so, because I can tell you that our elementary buildings have helped this community, and they've helped our kids, and they'll help future kids to come. I know that since those elementary buildings opened in this community, and I won't say this is the only reason, because there's a lot of great things going on in Xenia and Xenia schools, but property values have increased by 5% since those buildings opened. And I
I'm
hope
sorry, where do you get that figure at?
that information, I believe, came from the city, from information that we've been provided by the city.
I'd like to see that too. I'm a realtor, and property values haven't increased 5% since the schools were built.
We've just been told on average.
In 1970, why hasn't routine maintenance been done since 1976 on these buildings? The same people you're asking, Arrowhead, those homes were built in 1976. Guess what you have to do? You have to do your routine maintenance.
We do.
You have to replace boilers, you have to replace roofs, you have to replace this and that. So what this is telling me, what has happened to the routine maintenance if these schools are falling apart?
Well, I can tell you, I cannot tell you exactly what happened before my time. I've been in this district for 5 years. And I can tell you that we are properly maintaining these buildings, but at the same time, we have to decide, we have to prioritize the funds, because our permanent improvement fund is roughly $400,000 per year. And our voters graciously approved that at our the renewal levy at this past election. And they graciously approved that. And I thank them for that, because that little bit of money is what we use to make sure that our middle school and our high school, our central office and our preschool building are maintained. And there is not enough money at $400,000 a year to do all of the things that are needed.
But yet you might demolish them, but if they're well maintained, but you might demolish them.
Because well-maintained to make it through is different than being able to do all the things that we would like to do and actually fix in those buildings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, please? Ma'am, I have one clarification, I believe, for your segment 1 and segment 2.
Yes.
As I recall, this is tobacco money, which has
Yes.
come down to us through the state, such that whether we call them segment 1, segment 2, part A, part B, whatever you would like to call them, should the tobacco monies have run out, there would be no segment 2. So there was no obligation to the voters one way or the other.
That
when
is
you
correct.
passed
The funding
the
is a
first time.
biennium budget, and so the
Yes.
funding goes to the state, but the state, there's no guarantee they continue to have it.
So in reality, what we have here is a real opportunity, because there are still monies that have been procured from a federal lawsuit given to the states that are now available to us should we elect to take them in a almost one-for-one exchange for a school project.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, please?
I would like to say that if anybody wants to see the analysis that we did, because we've done focus groups, we've done a lot of research on this to see what is the best project. And you asked me $12 a month. I don't think that's easy for everyone to pay. I just know for me personally, and I hope others see the benefit of the project. It's not $12 for everyone. It's, it's more, it's less, depending on what your home is. It's just important to our future. And that's what I'll say, but important to our future for our kids and to our community.
But ma'am, I would say your salary is it's a lot more than the average citizen in the city of Xenia.
I won't disagree, sir.
Thank you.
But on our site, we do a comparison of renovating buildings versus building new, renovating the high school for a middle school. We did 4 different options, and all of those analyses are on our website as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time we have opportunity for audience comments. We have a large crew this evening, and it is quite warm in here. If you would care to come and address the Xenia City Council, please feel free to do so. Please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. In the interest that many may want to have comments, if we would limit comments to 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, and in the absence of our mayor, and ladies and gentlemen of the Xenia City Council, my name is Thomas Scrivens. I still reside at 725 Lexington Avenue, thank to God in heaven. And this morning, sir, this evening, I rise from my seat to bring to your attention just a couple of issues. Number one, we're glad that the Ethics Commission has cleared Councilman Lauterbach and Councilman Kalp of any wrongdoing and culpability. Our long city nightmare is now over, and thank God in heaven for that. Now we can move forward. Ladies and gentlemen of the city of Xenia, I'm glad you're here tonight. Shows your interest in what goes on in your behalf. So whatever business is transacted, it's got to be better tonight than it's been in the past. So thank you all for being here. And one last thing, Mr. President, is Xenia is playing our arch rival Beaver Creek tonight at Frank Zink Stadium, and I'm on my way. So I bid all of you guys a good night, and as Edward R. Murrow would say, good riddance, or whatever he said. But God bless everybody, and we must remember, at the end of all of our deliberations, we're all Xenians, and we all have to live together. And I thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Former Councilman John Kalp, Xenia, Ohio, Orville Way, 936. This is my wife, Robin. I have her up here tonight because this affected her as much as it affected me. So I have a statement I'd like to make. 19 months ago, Councilman Lauterbach and I announced to this council that we had a conflict of interest on a investment that we had hoped to make in an entertainment center in Xenia Town Square. Councilman Lauterbach and I met with the city law director, met with the city manager, and prior to that announcement, and we followed their direction when we told council of our intentions. City council at that point, rather than speak to Dale and I, right away they thought we had done something improper. Rather than asking Dale and I about it, Council President went to the City Legal Counsel to file an ethics complaint against us. Dale tried speaking to Council President and Council Vice President Long. Council Vice President Long then secretly taped that meeting and later altered that tape to his own liking to try to use it against Councilman Lauterbach and myself. Those actions taken by any council member in any other city would have required some sort of sanction because honestly they were despicable. They also went on social media with a blitz accusing us of things that were all false. President Enkel then persuaded council into holding an inquiry that we had violated the city charter because the Ohio Ethics Commission was not quite moving swiftly enough for this council. Council President took it upon himself to contact the city attorneys. He had over 100 different communications with the attorneys from Zashin and Rich, over 100. Council never agreed to file the complaint from them, nor spend funds on these actions. Council President kept spending taxpayer funds without authorization. If they had agreed to this, then it was in violation of Ohio Sunshine Law, because no action like that moves forward without council discussing it. And Dale and I were on the council, and it was never discussed. if it was discussed amongst the other 5, it's in violation. I believe council was discussing all these actions and having those communications in violation. Like I said, no action like that goes forward, and the spending of taxpayer funds into the thousands and thousands of dollars needed to be discussed first. Council then began the inquiry for charter violations. All the while, they had filed an ethics complaint with the state of Ohio. The first night of the inquiry, if you remember correctly, your own attorneys from Zashin and Rich stood right here and denied that they had been told by the state of Ohio not to move forward with that inquiry. Our attorney, Don Bray, threatened a legal complaint against Zashin and Rich. So when they showed up on night 2, they fell on their sword and admitted that the state of Ohio had indeed told them and this council not to proceed forward with that inquiry because they had an active investigation going. The council insisted upon continuing to move forward with the political witch hunt against Dale and I, even after they were told not to. Council determined they were going to be the witnesses, the judge, jury, and executioner, because Councilman Lauterbach and I never even took the stand. Councilman Lauterbach and I, we only talked to the unbiased professionals in Columbus. Councilman Lauterbach and I were forced to hire representation to defend us. We were being accused of violations of law and criminal acts publicly by council president and vice president, while the council was burning through over $75,000 in attorney fees, probably a $25,000 plus in staff time. Dale and I spent our own money, $80,000. I'll repeat that again for you, $80,000 to clear our names. So what city department do we go to get our reputations back now? The inquiry had far-reaching impact. Our good names were dragged through the mud. Our friends and family had to see council president and vice president in the news claiming that we had committed criminal acts. Our families had to deal with the phone calls, the questions at work, the questions out when we were out to dinner, the questions our kids had at school. It even affected Dale and I professionally in our personal lives. I personally lost a broker relationship and 5 accounts over the inquiry. That's real loss of income to my family over the acts, the reckless acts of this council. Income that I will never recover back. I place blame on our city manager too. He was in contact with the attorneys from Zashin and Rich, and I truly believe he could have put a stop to council's actions, but I'm not quite sure he wanted to. On Friday, August 12th, we received news that Dale, myself, and our family and friends all knew we would eventually receive. The Ohio Ethics Commission determined there was insufficient evidence to support a violation of any of the ethics laws or related statutes. Since the Ohio Ethics Commission had all the materials and videos of the inquiry by council, the Ohio Ethics Commission essentially declared the council's findings that we had violated Ohio ethics laws was dead wrong and unsupported by the record, by your record. This means we are innocent of any wrongdoing determined by an unbiased team of professionals in Columbus. Councilman Engel and Josh Long have both now said it's time to move on. Sure, they would like us to move on now. They would, I'm sure. They were just found to be 100% wrong on every decision that they've made over the last few months pertaining to Councilman Lauterbach and I. I bet they do want to move on. It's just not that easy just to say, you know what, let's move on. It's not that easy, people. I come to you here to ask I come here tonight to ask you, is this the night that each and every member of this council publicly apologize to Councilman Lauterbach and I for their actions that they were told not to take by the Ohio Ethics Commission? Mr. Engel and Mr. Long all drug you down this road, and now you have to live with the consequences of the actions that you took. All of you. All of you spent unneeded taxpayer dollars, all the while Dale and I spent our own money. Dale and I are guilty of something. We're guilty of being two individuals in this community that wanted to invest in a project for the citizens of this community in an entertainment center that got squashed by the actions of this council. Let me ask you how that project's going for you now. You've spent $500,000 on that Kmart building that the city now owns, and there's zero development over there. We're sitting on another property over there, all because of the actions of this council. So tonight is the night that you have the opportunity to say, you know what, I screwed up. You can do it publicly. You can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to come in and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
My name is Mark Jarvis. I live at 715 Mount Vernon Drive. On Saturday, August the 20th, the headlines in the Xenia Gazette, OEC clears Lauterbach and Kalp. Also a quote in the paper by a councilman, the city and council considers this case closed. But what about Dale and John's reputation? And what about the legal fees? The council had the taxpayers of Xenia pay for their legal fees. I feel the people responsible for this witch hunt should be ashamed of themselves. As a taxpayer, I'm very upset. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
My name is Mike Lauterbach. I live at 3366 Wyoming Drive, and I don't want to be here at all. But you tried to assassinate my brother's character. You tried to assassinate John Kalp's character. And I'm a Christian, and what I say out of my heart might not please God tonight, but in Matthew 15, Jesus was approached by council, also known as Pharisees, and they said, well, why do you let your disciples get by with not washing their hands before they eat? And to be honest with you, I have to ask the Reverend. He went off in a different tangent altogether about how they had made a scheme to break the commandment of God to honor your mother and father by working up this scheme to beat your mom and dad when they need you the most, when they're old. But then he addressed the multitude and he said, it's not what goes into the mouth, but it's what comes out of the mouth. And he referenced the word evil, and he also referenced the word slander in his preaching to the multitude. And I believe exactly that's what you've done here. I believe, Jeremiah says that the human heart is deceitful and desperately wicked.
Who can know it?
Jesus said, there's not one good, no, not one, but God the Father. And we're all wicked. We're all sinners. That's why Jesus had to come down and die for us. But I think that the basis of this whole exercise in futility, I might add, was based on evil. This is evil versus good. And I praise God, my Father, tonight, that somebody that was unbiased, and I know this, I'm going to preface this is going to go in your ear and out the ear. I was up here twice and I pleaded with you not to do what you did. You're not qualified. This is not the proper jurisdiction. This is not the venue. You're not prosecutors. You just trampled on their civil rights. They had no due process. They had to go out and hire attorneys. When I heard that it cost $100,000, I paid $2,047 last year. My wife paid $1,170. That's $3,300. It would take my tax money 33 years to pay for an attorney that sat with his head down the whole time. What a waste of money. You're building a $12 million building, and the upper floor of this building over here is completely empty. It's been empty for years. Nobody owns anything. We're here to use stuff. You're going to die, and you're not going to take anything with you. You're just not using your heads. And I would be real surprised if this doesn't end up in a federal district court for civil rights violations. What you ought to do, this is the ethical dilemma you have on your hands tonight. You were wrong. You need to pay their attorney fees. You need to apologize, and you all need to get along because you guys hate each other. I told you that from the first night. There's no sense in this. You can't work together if you hate each other. And so I'm hoping that you'll do the right thing. I'll give you an ethical dilemma. Dale and I have a 25-year-old African-American nephew that was shot in the head to death last week. My 73-year-old sister brought him in as a 3-month-old crack baby. She just lost her husband of 52 years 2 years ago. And this kid wanted money from our nephew, and our nephew wouldn't give it to him, so they shot him to death down in front of St. Petersburg Library. That's an ethical problem. This little fiasco about a theater, which what's in your theaters anyway? Smut. There's no good movies. I thank God that the entertainment failed. And the last time I looked at the Go To Me Fund, there's $352. So good luck with that. And I hope you do the right thing. I really do.
You? Anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
I wasn't sure I was going to speak, but then I was sitting over there and I remembered another instance in which this council, Lori Morris, 219 Hawthorne, Wilmington, Ohio, in which this council personally disappointed my family not maybe 2 months ago, in which you denied a contract for my husband and his employee or his fellow employees and coworkers out of the city maintenance garage. The men that work for you, plowing your streets at night at all hours, come out and clean up your trees that fall in the streets and sweep and deliver your trash cans for your debacle of a trash situation you have going on. And you denied that contract when you even had an unbiased, retired judge mediator tell you what was fair and equitable. And then you all sit there, with the exception of one individual, and deny that contract. So I guess you haven't, the state told you not to follow through with the hearing you were having, and so it's quite apparent you have an issue with taking suggestions of other individuals who have knowledge and experience in what they're speaking about. And if you don't issue a public apology to John and Dale, you should really be ashamed of yourself again.
Thank you.
My name is John Lamolt. I live at 2268 Capistrano Drive in Xenia. Now, I can tell from a look on some of your faces that to you this is not a very serious matter. This is just a dispute with some members and former member of the council. But it is a very serious matter. For one thing, these men's reputation has been seriously damaged in this town, the town they live in, the town they grew up in. Their reputation is gone. What are you going to do to restore their reputation? And they've lost money. I think Mr. Lauterbach mentioned something like $80,000 in attorney's fees. I think it's an absolute obligation of this council to pay those council fees. In addition, I think the council should sit down and negotiate with Mr. Lauterbach and Mr. Kalp to determine what other losses they've suffered. Because they have lost money, a serious amount of money. They are entitled to sue you. Whether they will or not, I can't say. But I think before that gets going, perhaps the council should sit down and figure out what the losses are for these men. Mr. Kalp mentioned that he had suffered the loss of 4 accounts. In his business, that's a lot of money. I know that Mr. Lauterbach has suffered losses too. This is a serious matter, a very, very serious matter, and you should take it seriously, and you should sit down and work something out. And you should publicly apologize and let the papers, not only the local paper, but the Dayton Daily News know that you are sorry and you apologize for the mistakes you've made. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to come and speak to the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Mel Carlisle, 1959 Lakeview Drive,
Sir,
Xenia.
can you please speak up?
Pardon?
Speak up. Can you please speak up?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Mel Carlisle, Xenia, Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was up here a year ago. I was disappointed. I even pointed out to a couple on the council to please, I begged them to please think for yourself, put an end to this mudslinging, put an end to the finger pointing, the trashing of Dale and John. You were following 2 leaders that you didn't think for yourself. And I might add, the new council people, I'm not directing any of this toward you. You weren't here last year. But I'm a taxpayer, and now you got to do the right thing and pay these men for their expense. That won't restore their good name, but you got to pay them for the expense they incurred, because this is all wrong, totally wrong. People begged you for a week, this went on, or 2 weeks, at the meetings, begged you to stop and let the ethnic committee do their job. And I'll never understand why you even had the power to use taxpayers' money to go ahead with your own private grudge against these 2 and spend the taxpayers' money when the ethnic committee are getting paid to do a job for them, for you, and for us, and for all of us. If they were guilty, they were guilty. They are the ones that's supposed to decide this. But I'm telling you guys, I was disappointed in you then, and I'm still disappointed in you, and there's only one thing that's going to make me happy, and I'm going to carry this with me the rest of my life. This is the worst railroading that I have ever incurred in my life of these 2 men. The worst. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing no one, we will move on to...
Actually, my name is Myra McDaniel, and I reside at 835 East Market Street here. I'm not here concerning any of what just have taken part of the last few minutes. But I am here because I had a flyer in my mailbox asking me to come out to the meeting because I live on the East End. The paper was concerning abandoned houses and critters that are in the abandoned houses that multiply in the community. People who don't garden may not think of critters as being anything bad, but I'm a gardener. If you drive down the street at 835 East Market Street, I take a lot of pride in the property that God has allowed me to be the caretaker of. And over the last few years, I've had problems with small critters such as raccoons and groundhogs and all of those. There is now 2 houses just above me that are unoccupied and have been unoccupied for years, that groundhogs I see running back and forth. I have called the city. They send out somebody and they picked up groundhogs. There are skunks that roam the area. There's stray cats that roam the area. I don't know what you guys are doing about the properties up there that are abandoned, but I just came out tonight because I had the flyer in my box, and I would like you guys to address that issue. I don't know if anything's been done about it or not. I know over in, and forgive me, I've been out here about 18 years, but I don't know the names of the areas, different parts of the city. But over in the I call the historical area over there, the streets are maintained well. The alleys are maintained well. If I happen to drive through there, alleys are taken care of. Over on the east end, some of these alleys, I'm sure, don't get attention unless someone calls down and complains enough that they may send somebody up there. I will say there's a couple of people in the street department that I've called, and they've been very courteous to me, and they will respond. But I see that this end of town is not cared for as well as some of the others are. I am a taxpayer. I get up and go to work I don't say every single day, because the Lord blessed, I have a couple of days off. But there's a lot of people over on the east end that do work hard. We care about our properties, but there are several properties that are not being kept up. I don't know if the owners of those properties are being called upon to do their duty. And I have been disappointed because I have reported some of these properties and nothing has been done. I walk on these sidewalks on the east end that are not well kept. So I know that there's probably a lot of other things that go on in the city of Xenia that I don't see, I don't know about, but I can guarantee you that you guys probably don't know what goes on up here on the east end because you don't walk these sidewalks. You may drive a street every once in a while, but you're probably not up there on a regular basis. So I work in the city of Kettering, but I live here in the city of Xenia, and I pay my taxes to here. And I don't know, again, how much is put into that community, but I responded tonight out of a flyer that was put in my mailbox. That's the reason I came out tonight. I appreciate you guys listening to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Billy Carrico, 606 Sutton Drive. I just have a quick statement to make. I was here a year ago as well, when everything was happening, and I just want the council to understand, besides owing a much-needed apology to Dale and to John, and also compensation, honestly, I don't think you understood what you did to our community. I don't think you understand what you did to the city of Xenia on a personal level with everybody. It caused animosity between friends. It caused animosity at workplaces. People were arguing over whose team are you on? Are you team Dale? Are you team John? Team council? I think you did a lot more damage than what you see and what you're hearing here tonight. And I believe if you go out on the streets and talk to people, you're going to get an earful. I just think that the city of Hospitality was ripped apart by our city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing none, we'll move to items from City Council and Mayor. Anything from my colleagues to bring to the council's attention, please? Oh, terribly sorry. Reports of committees. Councilman Wallace, Economic Development Advisory Board, please.
I think we actually covered everything that we had to cover last week and acted on the only issue that we wanted to act on, which was to ask the council to move on the one issue, and we did that. So,
Thank you.
Did we not? Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. Anything for Councilman Wallace and Economic Development Advisory, please? Seeing none, Councilman Latterback, Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, please.
Our August meeting was canceled. We will meet again in September.
Thank you. Anything for Councilman Latterback and MVRPC, please? Moving to items from City Council and Mayor. Now, anything from my colleagues to bring forth, please? Councilman.
I would like to piggyback on my good friend Councilman Kalp's statement. It was well professionally done, well read, and I agree with everything, but I've got a couple things to add. First of all, I want to thank my family for standing with me through this stressful time. My immediate family, my brothers, my sisters, all my family, my wife's family. You have no clue, you people sitting up here, what you put us through mentally and physically. So and most of all, I want to thank my supporters, everybody who voted for me. And you know, the people that did not vote for Councilman Kalp, I want to look in the camera and say, shame on you. You believed all the lies and innuendos, and you lost the best city councilman this city has ever had. So again, shame on you. Most of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He's been with me since day one. Times when I wanted to quit, he kept me up. He's been by my side. He says, "Lo, I'm with you always until the end of the time." And you can see he's been with me and John from day one. And as far as the lies and innuendos, Channel 7's here, Dayton Daily News, Xenia Gazette, John and I would be glad to do interviews with you, because now it's time for the citizens of Xenia to hear the truth. You have not heard the truth. John and I had a gag order. We could not talk because the Ohio Ethics Commission had an investigation on that this council disregarded. As a matter of fact, like John said, they begged this council not to go forward with their inquiry. The inquiry that was the first ever in the city of Xenia that cost the taxpayers up to $100,000. Let me repeat that again. It cost you, the taxpayers, up to $100,000. You know how many of our disrepaired streets we could do with that? Our streets are crumbling. And it's just, it's appalling to me. But I would like to, you know, everybody had their fun with John. Here's a cartoon they put out. You know, it has me with money flowing out of my pocket. Matter of fact, the first person that liked it was the city manager's wife. But anyway, I want to make something clear to you guys. We did not receive one dime. One dime. As a matter of fact, I made a $20,000 investment I have not got returned to me. So that's lie number one. Lie number two, you all said that we did criminal acts. President Engel, criminal? Really? You know, Josh Long, you and Josh Long seems to be the ethics expert. Josh Long wasn't smart enough to fill out his petition to run for city council. No, it's a fact. He was not smart enough to fill out a petition, a simple petition to run for city council. But him and Engel, they were the ethics lawyers. Really. And we had a meeting February 21st with Councilman Kalp. I called for the meeting with the city manager, President Engel, Vice President Long. February 21st, a cold Saturday afternoon. We sat in the meeting. I went over the whole timetable. I explained the situation, what might happen. I looked at the end of the meeting. By the way, Joshua Long taped it and edited it. He left out the important part. But I want to tell you the important part he left out. At the end of the meeting, I looked at President Engel, and I said, what can we do to resolve this? His comment to me was, this reeks of insider trading, and you and Councilman Kalp need to resign immediately. I looked at him, and I said, nah, that's not going to happen, because Councilman Kalp and I did nothing wrong. And the citizens can put me out of this seat, but not President Engel. Also, he said it reeks of, I'm a student of the stock market for 50 years. Insider trading is when one gets inside information and they profit from it. They make millions of dollars. I haven't got a dime. Matter of fact, I'm in the hole $20,000. So how you can call that insider trading, I wish you would explain to the public. And you know, the people sitting up here, none of them, I'm a sitting council member, none of them, including our appointed officials, had the decency to say, hey, congratulations, or hey, we apologize. None of them. Nobody's sitting up here, and that speaks volumes of their character. June the 6th, the developer of the Community Action, CEC, I just want to read you what he sent me and John. This is David Beauregard, the developer. Good morning, guys. I think we have reached a point where we both need to take a realistic approach as to where we are in the project. I have to make a payment to my attorney tomorrow for the cost associated with the ethics investigation and all the work that he has done on the operating agreements. I'm not going to read the rest of it. You know what? Like John said, the only thing we're guilty of, wanting to bring an entertainment. If you had to mess with us with a witch hunt, there would be an entertainment center sitting over there today. I honestly believe that, because me and John had the wherewithal to do it and to raise money, but out of an act of jealousy and just the arrogance of power, this council blocked it. And now we've been exonerated, folks.
Please resume your seats. This is a business meeting.
By the way, nobody's mentioned it, but, and I'm not going to throw any numbers out there, but, well, somebody has mentioned it, but John and I want to be compensated. And how much money can you put on a person's reputation? Somebody smarter than me, some smarter attorney is going to have to tell me how much money can you put on my reputation that you drug through the mud. You tell me, this thing, you made a statement, Mr. Engel. Josh Long made a statement that as far as you guys are concerned, it's over. As far as I'm concerned, this is just the beginning. Because we did not get our due process in the inquiry. The Ohio Ethics Commission begged you guys not to do your inquiry. By the way, another thing you all spread lies about, when my wife and I went to South Carolina to look at an entertainment center, you all said Beauregard, the developer, paid for it. Nah, it's in the ethics. I've got all the receipts, and they deemed that we paid for our whole trip. Just another lie told by you guys. So now I'm sad to say, and like Billy said, you not only drug John and I through the mud, you drug the whole city of Xenia through the mud. What kind of a developer do you think wants to come to Xenia after listening to all this crap? Really? Don't you think you've damaged the citizens of Xenia severely by bringing us through this witch hunt? So again, you can give me a public apology, and that'll be fine, but I want compensated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman. If you desire compensation, I request that you put that request in writing, address it to the city manager, provide a detailed justification of why you believe you require compensation. City manager and staff will review and will present to council for consideration. Thank you.
My attorney will do that.
This is a business meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Anything else from council, please?
Mr. President, at this time, I would like to make a motion that we move the agenda for tonight forward.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have one here. I just wanted to let the public know that the September Traffic Commission meeting that is scheduled for the 5th will be moved to Thursday the 1st. Anybody wishes to attend? Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor to move the remaining items from reports of city offices for this evening as one. Do I have a second, please? Second by Councilwoman Mays. Discussion or question on the motion, please?
Will you explain to the public what you're trying to do now?
I just did, Councilman.
You didn't explain to the public what you're trying to do.
I'll state it once again, Councilman. The motion on the floor is to move or pass the remaining items on the reports of city offices, including from the city manager, the finance director, and the law director.
In other
There
words,
is a motion and a second.
you don't want the public to hear what else we have to talk about tonight.
Councilman, the motion is on the floor. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, of course, it's going to be another 6-1 vote because I'm voting no, but yeah, I think the public needs to know what you're trying to do. Thank you, and thank you for introducing me.
Any other discussion on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
No.
Councilwoman Mays. Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we come to the reading of communications and discussion section. Councilwoman Mays, please. Thank you. Councilman Louderback.
I want the media to know exactly what they skipped over the rest of the meeting. I'll be glad to interview with you. You know, I've got so much more to talk about, and I'm willing to do interviews with any of the press because bottom line is you guys screwed up. Thank you.
Councilman Wallace.
Nothing further to discuss.
Councilwoman Mills.
Just want to wish Xenia Buccaneers good luck on this first football game of the season.
Thank you. Mr. Vice President.
Nothing else this evening, thank you.
I have nothing as well. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Wallace. Second, please. Second by Councilwoman Mays. Roll call, please.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Louderback.
No.
Councilwoman Mays.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.